Foot Clan, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks left of pre-sale pricing for the Ultimate Draft Kit. We're talking 100-plus video profiles, our full projections. The consistency charts are back. Matt Harmon's reception perception is back. This is the tool you need to be prepared for all of your fantasy football drafts. And like I said, just 2 weeks to get the cheapest price of the season, ultimatedraftkit.com.
Hey, this is David Johnson, running back of the Arizona Cardinals, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Oh, I feel like I won the lottery today.
A draft lottery?
Yeah, baby.
I'm a Suns fan again.
Oh. We're reveling in the first time in franchise history that our hometown Phoenix Suns have won the Biggest Loser award. The NFL or the NBA draft lottery took place yesterday. We got the number one pick, guys. We won the lottery.
Very excited. Very excited. And now football.
It is Thursday, May 17th. Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. We are happy to have you join us today. It's going to be a great show. We announced yesterday that we had the rankings up on the website, and the initial 2018 rankings, they're there. They're the groundwork, the foundation with which we, the Ultimate Draft Kit is built. And the response, people were checking these out. We have been properly eviscerated for our various takes on Twitter, which is
rightly
important.
Yeah. You have.
All of yours are perfect.
My takes are perfect.
Yeah. Kyle Rudolph and his family applaud you for all that you've done for him in the rankings.
Build them up.
And, we're excited. Today, we're kind of piggybacking on that release of the rankings because we have the Wildcard show today, and we're speaking about players that were so difficult for us to rank. We're each going to talk about two guys that we found to be maybe the most challenging to position in our rankings, maybe guys that are going to bounce around a little bit. But I'm excited to get into some lively debates with you two fine gentlemen.
Yeah.
Speaking of live...
Oh, yes.
If you missed Tuesday's show, number one, shame on you. Number two, you missed the big announcement. We're hitting the road. We're seeing America. We're going on our first ever live podcast tour. You got to head over to ballerslive.com. That's where you can grab your tickets. We're hitting up Minneapolis on June 21st, Dallas, July 13th, where we're helping kick off the National Fantasy Football Convention. Philly, July 26th. New York City, July 27th. Back home in Phoenix, August 24th. Ballerslive.com has all the information you need for these tickets.
It's the Fantasy for the People tour.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantasy for the People tour presented by Draft. We are so excited to get out there, shake some hands, give some hugs, throw water cups on people. It's the best. It is. It's going to be great. We've had some awesome feedback already from listeners who are excited. So you're going to want to grab those tickets quick before they're gone at the various venues. And you can learn, like Mike said, about all of that at ballerslive.com. We make it easy. We make it simple. And we want to see you there. We're super excited.
Yeah, and big thanks to Draft for helping us get these shows going.
Absolutely. All right. Quick question of the day, gentlemen. It's a good one. Who is your dark horse team for this season? So, a dark horse team always emerges. The NFL is a league of parity, plus the Patriots. And last year the Rams came out of nowhere to be that dark horse threat. So who do you got this year?
I love this question because I've had this answer at the ready because I really do believe it. I believed at the moment that the draft was complete, regardless of your belief of whether or not the New York Giants should have taken Saquon Barkley second overall, which I firmly believe they should not have. I think their team in the short term this year is a huge bounce-back candidate. You had their best offensive player last year in Odell Beckham Jr. gone. Then you had basically the second best. You had Brandon Marshall gone. You had their third.
So it's quite a heap of praise to
call
him the second best.
Well, let's put him third. Let's put him third.
Second on the depth chart, wide receiver.
That's
the way you go.
That's fair. But even Sterling Shepard was
second on the depth chart, 50th in my heart. Continue.
missed a lot of time, and so their offense was horrendous. Their offensive line was horrendous. That made their defense worse. I mean, we've seen this 100 times. When you have a terrible offense that can't stay on the field, your defense is set up to fail. So I think this is a defense that is a little bit underrated. Their offensive line has been improved. Odell Beckham is back. Saquon Barkley's the best running back they've had since Tiki Barber.
Sure.
So, I think they're primed to make a move.
It all comes down to Eli Manning. If you've got a half-decent Eli Manning, I think you hit the mark with the Giants as a dark horse candidate. Interesting division. I like the pick. Mike?
I'm going with the Chicago Bears. Love what they have done this offseason. Weapons galore, headlined by the big free agent pickup of Allen Robinson. They were actually, I don't know if people realize this, they were a top 10 defense in points and yardage.
Where's the credit for John Fox, Mike?
Oh, whatever.
Give him some credit.
Give him some credit.
Top 10 defense.
He backed that up with an offense that ranked 29th for points and 30th
Can't do
for
everything,
yards.
Mike.
Yes, you can. That's how you win a Super Bowl. And you get Matt Nagy in there from that delightful Andy Reid coaching tree. Get him to fix that offense. Leave the defense be. And, of course, Jay Grizz loves this pick. But I am very excited to see what Mitch Trubisky can do with all this opportunity that the Chicago front office has given him.
I had a great team. I was the first one to put in the dark horse pick, so I had my pick of the litter. The temptation was there.
You went with the kitty litter. I see.
The temptation was to go with the Bears.
Right.
The problem is the Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings, and Green Bay Packers. So when you say a dark horse, I say 6 games against teams that are all going to be favored to beat them.
But
it's going to be tough.
But just like the Rams, you would have last year had said, Rams, well, they have to play against the Seahawks and the Cardinals.
No doubt. No, I'm not meaning to disprove it. Why I didn't go that direction. I went with the Baltimore Ravens. I still think that they're one of the best coached teams. Jason continuously revolts against Joe Flacco for good reason.
He sucks.
Their own general manager has revolted in a way by drafting Lamar Jackson, and yet, in spite of no offensive pieces and an underwhelming Joe Flacco, they were a 9-7 football team last year. They have a top 10 defense. They have revamped the offensive side of the ball. If they can get production from the wide receiver core, I don't see why this team can't compete for a playoff or even the division, for that matter. I know Pittsburgh is the heavy favorite in that division. I don't see why Baltimore can't compete in every single game. That's what they do under this coaching staff. They're my dark horse team.
No, I really like that pick.
Oh, you really?
I really like that pick. When I saw it in there, it surprised me at first, but thinking about it, I mean, I said this, I think, at lunch one day with you two gentlemen. As much as I hate Joe Flacco, it is possible that drafting Lamar Jackson behind him puts a little bit of pressure to actually air the ball out. And as bad as the wide receivers are this year, they're better than they were last year. So I think Joe Flacco could actually step up. My projections have him stepping down, but it's within the realm of possibility.
You can have both. You can have him step up like Alex Smith did last year and become this downfield threat and still leave.
Right. Yes.
Alex Smith still left, and Joe Flacco will get something on the open market if that's the direction they tend to go. So, Brooks, you need to throw a quick question in on a future show and do the inverse of this. Not the dark horse that becomes good, but go ahead and give us the opportunity to pick a team that we think is going to
do we have to
collapse.
In the question, do we have to just automatically omit the Seattle Seahawks?
What's the opposite of a dark horse?
A bright horse?
It's not a horse.
That's not the opposite of a horse.
What's the opposite of a horse?
I think a duck.
A bright duck.
A bright duck.
We need the bright duck.
How can a horse have an opposite?
Well, it does. A duck is clearly it.
It's like an inside-out horse. That's about as opposite as you can. Just 2 notes.
That's awful. Inside-out horse.
For
I got
Jason.
the visual.
for Jason.
But it's still trotting.
Joe Flacco is the all-time passing leader for the Baltimore Ravens.
Of course he
Yes.
is. He's also a Super Bowl champion.
But here's the thing that I wanted to say. Since Harbaugh has taken over, you can look back. He has one losing season.
Oh, Harbaugh is
he's
an excellent coach. He's absolutely an excellent coach. That's why I like the pick. I mean, they were better than you think they were last year.
It surprised me. I had to double check that they were 9-7 because I didn't believe it. All right, guys, it's time.
Brakes are no, I'm saying no. The brakes, guys. Why aren't the brakes working?
Because I cut the brakes! Wildcard!
Fantasy Wildcards. That's what we're calling players. We had a difficult time ranking.
Yeah, and
You
not
want
only,
the want the
hit me.
key?
Wild card.
not only a difficult time ranking because, the situation is murky, but because the range of outcomes is wide. These are the type of players that we're discussing on today's episode that could help you win a championship or be a horrific pick and just implode and disappear.
Yeah, and there's a reason you're listening to this show right now in May. You want to win your league. And I know that there is an element of luck that comes into play with fantasy football. We all recognize that. We all see that. But you know what Thomas Jefferson said?
I want to know.
4 score.
No, he said, the harder I work, I find the more luck I tend to have. And you're doing your work here.
Now, is that a Facebook
listening to
Thomas
the show.
Jefferson quote?
No, this
They
is.
just slapped his name on it.
I was there when he said it.
Oh!
I don't doubt it.
Time machine. Same year briefs were invented. You guys really need to. All right,
They
here
wore
we go.
straw underpants back then.
One of the we're starting with my wild card. I'm gonna kick it off with the big name, okay? And I want this opportunity. I yearn for this opportunity to talk about Kareem Hunt, okay? In what I'm calling my cauldron of concern for Kareem Hunt. Just imagine a brew, and you're trying to mix it up, and you're adding various parts to it. And I want people to understand, because I've already seen this. This has been one of the most predominant things on Twitter based on our rankings, because I have Kareem Hunt currently at number 13, which is preposterous. It's ridiculous. It's asinine.
It truly is.
And Mike fully sides with the majority on that it is crazy. But I want you to understand what I am mixing in to the brew, okay? And one part of this is Andy Reid, okay? Andy Reid has been an NFL coach for a very, very, very long time. One time in 20 years he's had a top 5 attempts team, and that was like year 3 he was in the NFL. Here's what he's done in terms of total attempts in Kansas City since he's arrived. 19th in the league, 15th, 16th, 12th, 14th, last year 23rd in the league. He's resuming play calling duties this year. It's not Doug Peterson anymore. It's not Nagy. It's Andy Reid and the wild card that is Andy Reid in and of himself. Even last year in the pinnacle, amazing year of Kareem Hunt, 272 carries, 8 touchdowns, massive efficiency, great player, you still had weeks when Kareem Hunt burnt you because of the variable of Andy Reid. And I've talked about that piece of the puzzle. Here's one more ingredient to this cauldron, okay? Spencer Ware is 26 years old, okay? This is a young Spencer Ware. This is a player with a 4.6 career average that they, without the injury last year to the PCL, would have had as their starting running back to begin the year. He is back. Add another ingredient to this cauldron. On paper, it's a brutal schedule against the run. You've got to face the Denver defense against the run. You've got to face Jacksonville, the Rams, the Chargers twice. It's a brand new quarterback. How good is this team compared to the other teams in the division? And then you just have regression in terms of those total carries. He's not getting 272 again. Do you believe, Mike, as the believer of Kareem Hunt, who I think is a great player, do you believe he's getting 272 carries again?
I do not.
Okay. I have him at 220. And so he's our consensus 10 because Jason and I have him at 13 and 12. Mike, you got him at 6. I get it. Every year you kind of have to plant your flag on a situation. And for me, there are players I would rather take with more guaranteed workloads and less probability of regression than Kareem Hunt. That is why he was difficult for me to rank. I had to take a stand with him. And that stand put him at the back. Now, it's hard to take him anything beyond an RB1, and he's right in that category. That's where we got him. It's just I don't see him as a top 3 guy. I don't put him in the Kamara category.
Yeah, for me, I mean, you say I've got him at 12, which is also rather low, and I don't view him in any negative light. I actually would love to have Kareem Hunt. I think this is a deeper pool of legitimate, tier 1, or not fantasy tier 1, but just as far as volume running backs with talent who could catch the ball. I've got a couple other guys that might be a little bit surprising, just barely above Kareem Hunt, like Christian McCaffrey and Jerick McKinnon.
Saquon Barkley's one that I have ahead too that people
Certainly.
think we're crazy to put him up there. But
really? Oh,
yeah.
See, I think that one is not nearly as hot as having McKinnon.
I think McKinnon would be
Dalvin Cook.
Oh,
I think, and I love Dalvin Cook, but I'm saying I think it's a little hot takier to have those guys above Kareem Hunt.
I agree with that.
But it doesn't mean you're wrong.
Look, we're talking about what did we labor with in this ranking process? Kareem Hunt was difficult to rank.
Okay, so here is another. I'll kick off the next one, and I'll stick with the running back position. The Green Bay Packers running back situation as a whole is one of the most difficult, but I wanted to highlight and focus on Ty Montgomery, the most forgotten man out there right now. What is he going to be this year? And
you said you're sticking to the running back position, and we
he
don't
a
even
running
know
back?
if you're sticking to the running back position.
That's the point, is that you guys, and by you guys, I'm not speaking of the two of you, I'm speaking of everybody, is completely forgetting about Ty Montgomery, is saying they're not even sure he's a running back. Last year, coming into the season, who were the 3 running backs that the Green Bay Packers had as their starting running backs? What was their running back room?
Coming into the season? After the draft?
After the draft,
It was
coming into the season.
Montgomery was the starter, Jamal Williams, and Aaron Jones.
Who are the running backs right now for the Green Bay Packers?
Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams.
So you have omitted Ty Montgomery,
I have.
who the Green Bay Packers themselves have continually said is going to be very involved. Now, when he was healthy, the first 3 weeks of the season, when the Green Bay Packers were winning games, do you remember that Ty Montgomery was a top 5 running back?
He was getting 125% of the carries.
Certainly, he was way too involved, and that number will come down. But for these reasons, this discussion is where I have a hard time taking Ty Montgomery and throwing him away. When all 3 running backs were there, he was the guy that they went with. Now, granted, they were rookies. They got a little bit more experience, so will they be more involved? Certainly. You can't give Ty Montgomery the workload. But how it splits up is a real question, and I believe with complete certainty that there is going to be a very valuable running back from the Green Bay Packers for fantasy football. And most people are putting Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones ahead of Ty Montgomery. They don't know what to do with Ty Montgomery. They're getting rid of him. He is, to me, a wild card player where I could easily see him at the end of the year being a top 24 running back, a very valuable guy, and being drafted at the end of them. It's just weird that all of a sudden, even though he was clearly the best back, was the most versatile back, they lost Jordy Nelson, and he is a great receiver, and it's like you don't put him with wide receivers, and now we don't put him with running backs.
We might all get a clear picture of what they're going to do as we inch closer. When we get into training camp, the clarity may come with these guys. I actually have Ty Montgomery scoring more fantasy points than Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. So I understand Jason's perspective there. I believe it. This is not a situation where just because he was injured, although that is one of the problems with Ty Montgomery, has been durability. Just because he was injured, these teams don't throw these players away. He is versatile. He is talented. Jamal Williams struggled with 3.6 yards per carry. I think the versatility of Ty Montgomery, reliability in the eyes of Aaron Rodgers, at a minimum makes him relevant.
Yeah, I mean, Week 14 when Aaron Rodgers came back, a must-win game against Carolina, and they lost. I wouldn't doubt it if they went, man, I wish we had Ty Montgomery during this game.
Yeah, possibly. It's all about the draft price, which I think you're right, Andy. By the time draft season rolls around, I think we will have the clear picture of it, but there's players out there doing best ball drafts on draft, and you got to plant your flag. I have mine firmly planted on Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams splitting it, with Jones being the having more of the timeshare in terms of carries, but he was actually bad as far as efficiency of working with targets and catching the ball, while Jamal Williams was actually great, which is interesting because you would have
coming out of college
in the draft process that was flipped around, so that could just be an outlier year for Aaron Jones in the receiving game. But for me, if I'm taking a guy right now, I will take Aaron Jones. But
don't forget about Ty.
Right, once the draft season comes along, Ty Montgomery might be free, and you just surprise, week 1. Here's Ty Montgomery.
He might be free in dynasty leagues today, and that would be another potential low risk investment for a dynasty owner if you buy into the narratives with which we brought forth. Before, Mike, you share yours, I want to take just a moment and thank today's sponsor, HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that shops, plans, and delivers your favorite step-by-step recipes and pre-measured ingredients so you can just cook, eat, and enjoy. My wife cooked up one of these the other day. It was a sriracha ground beef bowl. I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. You choose,
starving.
It's so good. I'm hungry right now, too. Choose from 3 plans. They got classic veggie. You got a family plan. Each box is delivered right to your door in a recyclable, insulated package made up of fresh ingredients, responsibly obtained. Plus, with simple recipes outlined on pictured step-by-step instruction cards, you can be confident in what you cook. They just make it easy. That's what these meal kit plans are about, and HelloFresh makes it so easy. They even have one-pot recipes, so you don't even have the cleanup. So you can spend less time meal planning and then more time doing what you love, right?
Eating.
I'm with you. So for $30 off your first week of HelloFresh, visit HelloFresh.com/footballers30 and enter the code footballers30. So you get the $30 off your first week, HelloFresh.com, footballers30 to get $30 off your first week of HelloFresh.
And we also want to thank Pristine Auction, huge friend of the show. We love Pristine Auction. We actually just got a brand new, super hot DeAndre Hopkins jersey up on the wall. If you're on the YouTube, as you know, you should be listening first and then watching on YouTube.
It's amazing how they do that.
It's a great jersey. We picked that up. We scooped it for such a good deal. And look, Father's Day's coming. Okay, you want to win Father's Day and tell all your siblings that they're losers because you got the best present? You go to Pristine Auction.
You hearing this, honey?
And you grab. Look at some of this. You can get a 8x10 signed photo of T.Y. Hilton, $29.
Is that yesterday?
That was
yesterday. It went for yesterday?
Melvin Gordon signed jersey, $73. I mean, there's just the list. Every single day we print out this list of things that went yesterday for prices that you can't believe, signed, certified, authenticated signatures. It's awesome stuff. So check them out, pristineauction.com, Pristine auction.com. Make sure you let them know that you found out about them from the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
I've got a bid in on something special here for Jason.
Ooh.
Because I know he's got a favorite tight end.
Oh.
Who wears purple.
Kyle.
So I'm working on that.
All
Great.
Right.
My money's going towards that, Mike?
It is.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah. It must be Christmas already.
All right,
Rudolph.
Mike, who's your wild card? And I asked that like I don't know. I actually browsed it, and they're great picks.
My wild card here is Kenyan Drake because his range of outcomes is insane. Here's exactly what I'm talking about. Just walk through his season last year, and you will see what the range of outcomes are for Kenyan Drake. He had 100 – I apologize. Just in college, you need to give the backstory for Kenyan Drake. He only had 233 carries in college. His most utilized season was only 92 carries in one season. He was not drafted to be a workhorse. So that's the background. Last year, he ended up with 133 attempts. Weeks 1 through 6, he totaled 4 carries for 3 yards. He had 5 targets in that time.
I had 5 carries in those weeks. So.
The first 4 games without Jay Ajayi, 32 carries, 175 yards. And now, very efficient, but 32 carries in 4 games, that's not going to get it done for fantasy football. In that time, he had 14 targets. Then Damian Williams gets hurt, and he finishes the season with a stat sheet filling 91 carries, 444 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 28 targets. He averaged 18 carries and 6 targets in the games without Damian Williams. So you go from never ever touching the ball, being the backup in a timeshare, to full-on you are everything for the Miami Dolphins.
And he was great.
And how did they move forward into 2018? Well, they brought in Frank Gore, and then they draft Kalen Ballage, who can profile as either a 3-down back. His pass-catching profile in college is tremendous. What is Kenyan Drake moving into the season? And you are going to have to pay a very high draft pick regardless of anything that happens over the summer, because there's going to be someone in your league who wants Kenyan Drake. They're probably going to pay up a 3rd or a 4th round pick at the minimum for what Drake can do, because like Jason said, he was fantastic to close out the season. He was great on the field. He was great in your fantasy scores. I just don't know what to do or what to project for Kenyan Drake.
Yeah, I mean, coming out of college, he was one of the 2 guys that I liked the most. I loved Kenyan Drake. I firmly believe if they give him the ball and they make him the leader, he will be an unbelievably great fantasy asset. But you're right, you got to follow what they did. And of course, they lost Damian Williams. They lost Jay Ajayi, so they were going to replace it. And so you could be happy. You could say, oh, good, they only got Frank Gore and Kalen Ballage. Or you can make the argument that they brought in a guy who replicates what Kenyan Drake does, and a guy who's a 1st and 2nd down guy ahead of him. So very, very difficult. Because I love Kenyan Drake, I wanted him to be super high in my rankings, but I just couldn't do it because you can't. I don't think we've seen anything from the Dolphins that say they're going to utilize Kenyan Drake.
Personnel confidence is not something I have with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And we've learned that no matter what kind of huffing and fluffing and puffing comes out of Miami over this offseason, do not buy it.
Right.
It's poison.
One of the great offseason lessons we try to reiterate every single year is you got to be able to you got to know when the hype train is coming down the station, and everybody looks great. Everybody looks great.
But not as good as they do in Miami.
Miami, there's a little extra sun shining on them. You guys ever see the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer is out in a rental car or on a test drive of a car?
Yep.
And they hit the freeway, and the gas tank's on E, and it just becomes about pushing the tank as far as it can go. How far can you go past
it to the limit.
E? Take it, and it's a fun ride. It's exciting. I want to talk about Lamar Miller,
but it does. It ends.
It does end.
I wasn't sure if you were going Lamar Miller or if we're still on Frank Gore.
No, Frank Gore, that's true too. But
he's a hybrid.
It's amazing because Lamar Miller's, I think,
his
30
miles per gallon is great.
30 years younger than Frank Gore, and yet they're at the same stage of their career. Look, the car is running out of gas. Lamar Miller is running out. So as a wild card, as somebody difficult to rank, you see this player who has every bit of opportunity in front of them on a competitive offense, and then you see this vehicle that is just 5.1 yards per carry, 4.5, 4.0, 3.7. That's the last 4 years for Lamar Miller. Nobody wants that car.
That's
sometimes you're stuck with a car to get you to and from work that you don't want. It's got no performance. It's just something you got in the garage. Last year, Alfred Blue had nearly 20 more carries than Lamar Miller to finish the year over the final 3 games.
That's just crazy.
So you ask why? Why use Alfred Blue, give him 46 carries, Miller 27 over the final 3 weeks, unless you're just done
or
with
you're
Lamar Miller.
You got to save that gas.
But
Maybe.
somebody
Maybe.
has to be the running back. That's the thing that makes him so difficult to rank. Yet last year, Pro Football Focus ranked the Houston offensive line as 32 out of 32. Trash. So here you have a situation where we don't know if Deonta Foreman's going to be healthy in time for the year to begin. I tend to think he will be. You don't know how much of the backfield they're willing to hand over to Deonta Foreman right away. Alfred Blue is back on a one-year deal. Lamar Miller is still around. He's the old beater. They've paid him money. You're kind of invested. Nobody wants that. You're not going to get nothing for him. But I don't know how to rank him. And even the last 2 years when all of these arguments were true about Lamar Miller, all this opportunity, he still finished the year 18, 16. So he's an RB2, but he's never made you happy.
But he's not going to cost an RB2 price this season.
No, I mean, I'm not saying you don't draft him. I just don't know how to rank him. And I chose to rank him very, very poorly until I see something that tells me, Foreman's not going to be back.
I did not choose to rank him very, very poorly, but he ended up very, very poorly ranked. Like, that wasn't
Or do you still have him at 28?
Yeah.
I don't think that's too bad. The difficulty for me is I think Foreman will be out. I think Foreman will be on the PUP list to start the season. There's 6 games right away. So Lamar Miller, while he's my RB45 right now, he's one of these guys that could have early season value. So while his end of season ranking is bad, Lamar Miller he's becoming more and more interesting by the day.
And when he
and
plays,
he's becoming Terrence West interesting.
Sure.
That's the kind of interesting.
Sure.
And that's fine.
when he played with Deshaun Watson, he was very good. He was an RB1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he ends up being the starter for the whole season with Deshaun Watson, he's wild card.
He's got fresh legs, like you said. Alfred Blue took the load for him.
If you notice, the hardest players to rank are these players that can be I mean, Miller could go everywhere from RB14 to, working at Walmart. I mean, that's the range of outcomes for Lamar Miller.
So I don't think he has to work at Walmart with the contract. He would.
That's true. Yeah.
Fishing.
They require over 3 a carry at Walmart anyway.
Oh, that can't be true.
That's why Eddie Lacy can't work there.
Oh, we're just putting people on blast.
Yeah. Well,
So Lamar Miller was, a long time favorite of mine.
Yeah.
2 years ago, he was one of my guys. Let's talk about one of my guys from last year, who is.
It was looking great, man.
It was looking great.
Oh,
yes. This was my one failure. Dak Prescott last year, as far as my guys. This was.
I know.
And here's the thing about Dak. It was looking great.
It was looking
I don't know
great.
if you remember, but the first 8 weeks, which is that's half the season. The first 8 weeks. Do you know where Dak Prescott ranked?
Off the top of my
among the quarterbacks, fantasy points per game,
6 or 7.
6 or 7. What do you think, Andy? First 8 weeks.
8.
First 8 weeks. You think 8? 1.
What?
He was the number 1 quarterback over the first 8 weeks in fantasy points per game because he had a week 7 bye week because he was great.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my guys are awesome. And then from week 9 through the rest of the season, you lose.
Not number 1?
You lose the left tackle, not number 1. You lose his left tackle. You lose Zeke.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, things start getting exposed. You want to take a guess where he was, his fantasy points per game from week 9 through the rest of the season?
25?
25.
I'm going to go lower. I'm going 29.
29. 34. There are 32 teams in the National Football League, and he averaged the 34th best. So, I mean, you've got a tale of 2 seasons. And, okay, you lose Dez Bryant. But so what? He never had a connection with Dez Bryant. He actually had better scores on a per-game basis in the 3 games he played without Dez, and you add Allen Hurns. That's so okay. You've got the offensive line back. You've got Zeke back. But the thing that really scares me is losing the emergency blanket. Jason Witten retiring is bothersome. You also have a guy here who in his first 2 years has been a top 12 quarterback for fantasy. That's very, very rare. The only guys that have done this in the modern era are Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, and Cam Newton. And those three guys are great. All three are fantasy superstars, and they continue to be. So Dak is one of these guys where I've got him pretty low in my rankings right now out of fears of what we saw, fears of him, being exposed.
None of us have him as a top 12 or even a top 15
I've got
quarterback
him at
this year.
20, but I mean he's a running quarterback, and we know that that's an exploit. That's a fantasy trick. Get your rushing quarterbacks, and they're going to do well.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So
I'll allow it.
If you finish 34th in the league over the last 9 weeks of the season, everything in Dak Prescott's career had gone swimmingly up to this point. I saw confidence problems over that second half as things started going the opposite direction. Do you think that will contribute this year? I mean, he was a player that didn't throw interceptions for the first, 15, 20 games of his career, and then the wheels fell off.
I think the first week or two of this season is going to be monumental for Dak's mind. I mean, if he gets off to a slow start, I think you're going to see the wheels falling off on Dallas.
Dak could crack.
The Dak could crack. But the reality is, because he is such a good running quarterback, I think his baseline is high enough where he's still probably going to be a guy that you should draft in fantasy leagues, and he'll be all right.
Eli Manning or Dak Prescott?
Dak.
I would take Dak.
You want that baseline?
But,
Yeah.
I mean, such a wild card. Such a wild card.
All right, the final guy of the wild card show.
It's a great one.
My final wild card, Brandin Cooks. What the heck do we do with Brandin Cooks, who when he's on a team, they don't want him.
I was going to say, every year,
New teams want him.
new team plus a new set of confusing metrics.
But here's the thing. For Brandin Cooks, who was pretty great for fantasy purposes the last 2 years, wide receiver 9, wide receiver 12, but he was also the guy. He was the wide receiver 1 on his team. The last 3 years, 129 targets, 117, 114. Now he has been traded to the Rams, and they paid up. They gave a first-round pick for Brandin Cooks. I like that. But the past 3 years, like I said, 114 targets was his minimum. Last year, Cooper Kupp led the Rams with 94 targets. And there isn't a huge target vacuum all of a sudden. Well, this target monster has left Los Angeles, and Brandin Cooks is coming in to fill in. Sammy Watkins is gone. He was only 70 targets.
Do you feel like he was the guy in New England last year?
Yes.
You think he felt that way?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Other than Gronk.
of course. But he was the wide receiver 1 due to the Julian Edelman injury. I don't think he would have been utilized the way he was if Edelman played. But, of course, he got hurt, and Brandin Cooks was great last year. The Rams were 24th in passing attempts last year. But they paid up. I love following what the management is doing. I love when they draft a guy high, when they trade up for a guy. You traded a first-round pick to get Brandin Cooks, knowing you're going to have to give him money this season to make sure he's on your team next year. I guess you can technically franchise him, but you're paying him a lot right now. You're going to extend him. But where does he get the targets from?
Robert Woods.
You think Woods' target share goes that far down?
Yeah, I do.
I
do. He was not. Woods was not. I think as predominant statistically as we feel like he was, and I think that's where they come from. Because those guys can do some of the same stuff.
Yeah, the question is he going to steal from that or replace the Watkins role? I had him more replacing the Watkins role, getting more targets. But when we first published, he was outside my top 50 wide receivers, and that was pointed out to me. That's just where the chips fell based on the fact that I actually think the target leader will still be Robert Woods. But you're right. If he is going to get up near 100 targets, it's going to have to come from Robert Woods. And even though, I mean, on a 16-game pace, Robert Woods was pacing for 113 targets, so they could come from there and go to Cooks.
I think the thing that we have to say, and this is, again, we all had challenges ranking him. When you move teams in and of itself, that's a challenge. And then you've got this kind of enigmatic player. I mean, last year, 65 receptions. That's not a great number based on the targets and catch percentage.
Right.
But I think what you have to say is Brandin Cooks, he's a better wide receiver than Robert Woods. He's a better wide receiver than Robert Woods.
So is Sammy Watkins.
He's been a fantasy football top 14 for 3 straight years. So I'm going to follow those two pieces. That's why I have him ranked the highest on that roster. And that we're all making that choice. That's why he's such a wild card.
Whoa! Wild card.
Wild card. Boom, boom.
So I do
Thanks,
have
Jake.
enough confidence in Cooks and McVay. Like you said, if they're going to pay him and they're going to trade for him, they're going to use him. That's what I'm going.
Sure, but I mean,
the bet.
But
Nobody's saying Brandin Cooks just got traded to the best offense in football.
right.
I mean that happened.
But they were the
so-
best offense because they took
rushing offense.
what is there. Yeah, I mean, Gurley is the foundation of the offense, and Jared Goff he spreads it around. It's the same offense McVay was running in Washington. You had Kirk Cousins who's throwing for over 4,000 yards, but when you look at the fantasy wide receivers for that team, Deshaun Jackson had 1,000 yards, but you weren't ever thrilled to plug him into your lineup every single week.
The thing about the whole Watkins leave, like if you want to say somebody takes the Watkins role, the Watkins role in Los Angeles was scoring at the goal line. That's Cooper
Right.
Kupp. If you want to bump Cooper Kupp's touchdowns up, I get that. But, I guess Cooks can replace the downfield bombs.
If
but
you bump Kupp's
but
touchdowns
Watkins
up, he's going to be great.
I know. He is. All right. Those were our wild cards. You can see all the rankings at thefantasyfootballers.com. A reminder, again, if you want to grab some tickets to come see us live,
Do it.
we'll be in Dallas, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, New York, and Phoenix this summer. We want to see you there. Ballerslive.com. Don't miss
We
it.
promise you that if you go to these events, you will have a good time.
Yes.
Yes. And speaking of which, each of these events, we do a live mailbag, which is also fun. And we're going to jump into the mailbag right now.
Mailbag.
If you have a question, come to one of the shows. It's the only
Save
way,
it.
It's the only way you can
Write
get
it
answered.
down
No.
in your diary.
You can
We'll
go to the
get to
website
it.
as well, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the submit a question button or dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. We love helping you out. Chase in Rochester. I'm a new dynasty commish.
Oh, congratulations.
It's like he
It's
had
like having a baby.
Like he had a baby. Looking through the glass at his league in there.
Yeah, right.
Aw.
That's so cute.
There have been some disputes within our league, and even though I'm the commish, it seems like my league mates don't respect my authority.
Respect my authority.
How do I lay down the law?
You kick them all out.
Oh!
This question is for Judge Giamatti.
Why? You lay down the law, Brooks. Brooks, you're such an authoritative personality. How do you lay down the law in your life?
Strong arming people.
Yeah, when you commit, you a commish of your one of your home leagues, right?
I know how he does it. He's got a
Dude.
gavel back there.
You follow the rules or you're out.
Oh,
Get a
That's means simple
Look.
as that.
go with the Brooks move. Get a gavel, jump on, get in front of their face, smash the gavel down. Not
That-
on their face because that's assault, and we're not recommending that.
no.
Just
The
recommend
judge
assault.
would
Just loud noises in their face. Say get in line
It's
or hit the bricks.
yeah. I mean, you might not have any friends left.
I don't know
though.
that you have to have – I'll say this. To be the commish, I don't know that you have to have any kind of supreme authority. You're the manager of a league where the league should be leading.
Right.
I have a real answer.
That was
Oh,
what I was saying, not a real answer.
Sorry. No.
I thought I was being real.
You absolutely were. I was speaking to our gavel friend. Here's what makes authority easy in that situation is if you set up a rule list or a doc or some bullet points, no longer are you saying I'm the boss. Now you're saying let's go look at the standard. The standard is this set of rules for the league, and you just go point to it, and then you're not the bad guy.
Let me highlight an article just written by Michael Winrick. This title might
Where
get
is
you.
that located at?
It's this excellent, my favorite website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Also get the Ultimate Draft Kit while you're on there. But this is the title of the article, Fantasy Football Commissioner, The Importance of Written Rules.
Oh, that sounds
very timely.
Sounds pretty good.
Good job, Michael Winrick. You're looking into that crystal ball.
All right, this question from Twitter, CJ Mino. Seahawks didn't address any pass catchers in the draft after losing Paul Richardson. Is this the uprising of Tyler Lockett as a wide receiver rather than just the return specialist? I've never heard of it referred to as the uprising of. That almost feels like a rebellion against others.
It sounds like Bane needs to be talking. Will you draft Tyler Lockett? Take him in the later rounds.
Tyler Lockett, I think, is a very good late round.
permission to draft Tyler Lockett.
He's a very good late round guy because of what is being pointed up here. Now, they did sign Jerron Brown. I can tell you as an Arizona native, he's not good enough. I mean, he's just – Jerron Brown has height. He's got speed.
He's got size. He's more prototypical.
Yes, but
than Lockett.
He's just not good enough to really replace Paul Richardson, in my opinion. I think Tyler Lockett has shown on the field that he can be a fantasy force. He should be healthy and be given the opportunity, but he's also showed that he can't stay healthy. And I think this is an offense that wants to change. That's my bigger fear. They're wanting to pass less, run more, as seen by the offensive coordinator change and drafting Rashad Penny in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, this is I think we know what Tyler Lockett is, guys. 3 years, 500, 600 yards, 50 receptions. That's not changing this year. I don't think it is. I don't think you're going to see more than 50 receptions. He's going to make big plays. He's going to score touchdowns. But
so someone's got to catch the ball.
I know.
Besides Doug Baldwin, because
we lost Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, Russell Wilson is going to, even though I agree they're trying to be a more run-heavy team, it's still Russell
Darborough,
Wilson.
Jerron Brown, Lockett, they'll all be worked in.
Yeah, just
I think Russell Wilson might throw it to himself.
Go the old Marcus Mariota.
Yes. But yeah, no, Lockett is another difficult player to rank because, opportunity is there. Can he stay healthy? Can he do it? Instagram question. By the way, you can follow us on Instagram at Instagram.com/fantasyfootballers.
I believe the word you were looking for was should.
What?
Should follow.
They should
follow us.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not a choice?
Yeah.
You should come to our live show.
Must, maybe? Maybe that's better.
It's escalating.
Yeah, the gavel is coming out again. St. Allen 57 on Instagram. Who will emerge from the Jacksonville wide receiver corps to be the best fantasy option?
That's wild card.
Yeah, it is a wild card. It's still Marquise Lee for me. Even though I've loved Dante Moncrief and I really hope it's him, it's still give me Lee.
I have Lee 4 points ahead of Moncrief in half-point leagues.
You know, it's funny. The guy that I started kind of discounting was Westbrook, D.D. Westbrook. And I thought for sure it was going to be Marquise Lee. Keelan Cole will be very involved. But as I really started looking at the game logs, game by game, I have D.D. Westbrook being the guy that emerges. The fact that the three of us have just named three completely different players who we think are going to emerge just shows it's a murky situation.
And they drafted DJ Chark, and they have Keelan Cole, who was great.
Yeah, I mean, so it's one of those where probably the answer is nobody. Probably it's not going to be one guy that's going to dominate this pack, separate, and be a fantasy superstar. This is going to be some weeks it's this guy, some weeks it's that guy at the end of the year. One of them will finish ahead of the others.
All right, we're going to close.
Thanks, Jay.
Let's close the mailbag out with a very important question. Brady in Eveleth has a question about the aforementioned, or what do you call that?
Afro-dropped?
They introduced, the afro-introduced?
Scatted. It was scatted.
Afro-scatted. Where does Jason stand on Amari Cooper today?
Well, he was almost.
Hold on, let me lick my finger. Hold on.
Get a gauge of the wind.
Let me see how where the wind's blowing.
Does anyone have a barometer?
So he was
the
my de facto.
On.
Like, I thought there was an obligation to put Amari Cooper down for the Wildcard episode because he is such a wild card. I mean, he sucked so bad last year, but he has all the opportunity in the world, and I still think he's very talented. Right now, where I stand on him in half-point PPR is about, I'm just going to say about wide receiver 16 is exactly where he's ranked.
He's down. He's out.
I would say that's a little bit down on him. Most people have Amari Cooper penciled in for a wide receiver 1 role. I've got him as a high-end wide receiver 2 right now.
Okay. All right. We'll check in, frequently. See what you think.
I can't wait till he's the highest.
He's my number 1 wide receiver, Amari Cooper.
For context,
Cooper is a really good example of the of not being Tyler Lockett in the sense that at least Cooper's had an 1,100-yard season.
Well, he's had 2 big seasons.
I like that he's done it before. If you're gonna take a gamble on somebody, I like that you've done it.
Yeah, and Crabtree's gone.
Yeah.
I love him. I'm moving him up.
Yeah,
And he's 23 years old right now.
that helps.
Yeah.
That helps.
No,
I'm older than that.
he's number 15 now.
Oh,
No, not really, Mike Evans.
All right, thank you for tuning in. Again, you can get an extra episode of the show at jointhefoot.com by becoming a member of the Foot Clan. Every Thursday, a bonus episode just for you.
The Footcast.
Thanks for tuning in. And again, check out draft.com/ballers for info on our live event as well as
play some best ball.
some sweet best ball. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.